What is up? What is up, my amazing Portionians? Today, uh, we are going to be going over the overview of the presidency. So we are going to see just a broad view of what the presidency is, some qualifications, and how the president actually gets to be president. So let's get started. Go ahead and take handwritten notes for this one, guys, and this will go next in your notebook, um, whichever number is next. All right, so let's get started. So the presidents, who are they? Well, their formal requirements, as you guys should know from the Article 2 video, they have to be 35, so Mr. Porchot cannot be a president, unfortunately. Once they hit 35, I'm going to consider it after teaching them. You must be a natural born citizen as well, meaning that you have to be born inside the United States. Arnold Schwarzenegger, the former governor of California, cannot be the president. He was not born in America. Um, he was born in Austria, in Europe. And then you must have resided in the United States for 14 years. 14 years. So let's say you're born in America, you visit China, and you love it in China. You love it so much that you want to move to China. So you move to China for several years, and then you come back to the United States, and then bam, you want to become president? Sorry, you cannot. You must reside in the United States for at least 14 years. Here's some of the informal requirements. Um, Now, these are by no means in the Constitution. These guys right here, these are the formal requirements that are listed in the Constitution. These are not. However, most um, are, I would say all, have Caucasian affiliation. But you might say, wait a second, Mr. Porchot, you said all, and don't we have a black president? Yes, we do. We have a black president, Barack Obama. However, uh, believe it or not, Barack Obama, he is half white. Um, so we do have a black president, but all 42 presidents before Barack Obama, um, they were white. Now, technically, Barack Obama is the 44th president, but there were only 43 men that have served the presidency, so that would 43 minus 1 is 42. All the presidents have been male so far. We'll see in the election of 2016 whether or not Hillary Clinton will become the president. All except for one were Protestant or are Protestant, and they have the ability to raise money for sure. Now, which president? Think about it. Which president? This is my wife texting me. What do we have here? Oh my goodness. Okay. So sorry about that. Can you think of the president? The one president that was not Protestant. Think. It was JFK. He was Catholic. And of course, an informal requirement is that they have political experience. However, some presidents never had political experience before they became president. The first example that I can think of is Ike. I like Ike. Dwight Eisenhower. He was elected in 1952, officially served in 1953. So he is a good example that you maybe don't need to have actual political experience before becoming president. All right. So all manner of professions. These guys come from all different types of professions, but they're mostly political ones. So it says former state governors, senators, congressmen, etc. And the trend lately, in the last, I guess, 40 years or so, is for Americans to elect what are called outsiders that don't really have any federal government experience. Now, of course, this is not a constitutional requirement. However, we tend to like to vote for people that are outside Washington because Washington is full of corrupt politicians, and we need to find somebody that's outside the corruptness, right? Somebody maybe from Texas or somebody from Arkansas. So this is the general trend. Let me show you a few pictures here. So here are the last 6 presidents. So Jimmy Carter, we have here. He was an outsider. He was the governor of Georgia. Ronald Reagan, he was also an outsider to Washington. He was the governor of California. Now, George H.W. Bush, he was not an outsider to, holy smokes. Okay, he was not an outsider to Washington. He was the vice president for Ronald Reagan, and he was also the director of the CIA. So he was definitely not an outsider. So he's going to be an exception. Bill Clinton was the governor of Arkansas, an outsider. George W. Bush, he was an outsider definitely governor of Texas, and Barack Obama. Someone argued that he's not an outsider. I would say that he was an outsider, despite the fact that he was a senator from Illinois. Well, he was only a senator for a very short time. He was a junior senator. So I would probably consider him an outsider, despite the fact that he was a senator from Illinois, who was working in Washington at the time of becoming president. All right, so how on earth did they get there? Well, the normal way is to get elected, so the normal road to the White House. Washington set a precedent, not a president, but he set a precedent that would later be institutionalized by the 22nd Amendment, meaning that you can really only serve 2 terms. This is not in the Constitution, so nowhere in the Constitution did it, when they officially wrote it, did it say that you must serve 2 terms. But Washington, he's going to serve 2 terms. He's going to die after he serves those 2 terms, but that doesn't really matter. But he's going to serve 2 terms, and out of respect for Washington, all the presidents after him will serve only 2 terms. I should say are going to serve no more than 2 terms. Some of them will serve 1, some of them are going to serve less. But up until FDR, he will actually serve a total of 4 terms. Now his 4th term gets cut off because he's going to die. What is the date? April 12th, 1945. So he will not serve. He will only be a few months into that 4th term. So the passage of this 22nd Amendment was due to the Republican Congress concerned. They did not want future FDRs, meaning they did not want perhaps dictators taking over the government, because FDR was in there for quite a long time. Some people called him a dictator. Some people said, no, this guy needs to serve for us. Now, it is possible technically to serve just under 10 terms, or excuse me, under 10 years in office if the vice president will become the president just after the midpoint of the president's term of office. So technically, mathematics-wise, I'm not quite sure how this works. I guess you can say, well, if he serves 9 years and 364 days, then it's okay. But if a vice president serves less than a half of a president's term, then he can be elected to the presidency twice, meaning the first term he was not elected because the president died, and then the second term he was elected by the people, and then the third term he would have been elected to the presidency, but he's only elected twice. So this is possible. However, if a vice president serves more than the half of the president's term, then he can only be elected once. And a good example of this is Gerald Ford. So Lyndon Johnson, he succeeded JFK in 1963, and he was eligible to actually be elected twice. But if you remember from your history classes, he was very unpopular with Vietnam, or Vietnam, whichever way you say it, and therefore he's not even going to think about running for another term. But Gerald Ford, he's going to succeed Nixon after the Watergate scandal. I am not a crook. I am not a crook. Nixon. So he was only eligible to serve, to be elected only once. All right, so another way that they can get there is by succession. So the vice president will succeed the president. Maybe if the president dies or resigns, like in the case of Nixon, or maybe removal. Removal has not happened yet. We'll see if it happens. And again, 25th Amendment, you guys should know this one. You guys are experts on all 27 amendments. You guys are experts. So under the 25th Amendment, the vice president will become the acting president if the president, let me start this all over. Apparently, you guys are all experts, but I cannot learn how to read English. The vice president becomes acting president if the vice president and the president's cabinet determine that the president is disabled. So more details on this in a second. And then the president could temporarily relinquish his power based on, let's say, he's disabled or he's going into surgery or something like that. Another way that they can get there is by impeachment and removal. I should probably add removal to that. In your notes, put impeachment and removal, or impeachment and conviction. So impeachment is that accusation requiring that simple majority vote in which house? The House of Representatives. So it's in the House, not the Senate. The House is the sector of Congress that is going to impeach. Now, this is constitutional. In the Constitution, it actually says word for word. Why could they be impeached? For treason, bribery, or other high crimes and misdemeanors. I think you guys did an assignment on that. Now, if a president is impeached by the House, then that trial is going to be going to the Senate, where they are going to try the president for conviction, and they need 2/3 for that, and the Chief Justice will preside. Make sure you have that the Chief Justice will preside over that case. How many presidents have been impeached? The correct answer is 2. Only 2 presidents have been impeached. Andrew Johnson, who he succeeded Abraham Lincoln, and then Bill Clinton, but neither was removed, so neither was convicted. Know this, know this, know this. I've seen this before. Students think Richard Nixon was impeached. That is not correct. That is not the correct answer. Only Bill Clinton and Andrew Johnson. How much do these guys make? So this was set by Congress, and this cannot be lowered or raised during the president's term of office. This has to do with checks and balances. So, believe it or not, the president, his salary doubled. It doubled. Holy smokes. Well, the reason why it doubled is because his first raise, this is the first raise since 1969. So, this looks like a lot of money, but guys, in reality, this is not. I mean, think about it. Like $400,000 to run the country. Are you kidding me? I am going to choose a different job. Being a teacher is just way better idea. Becoming president, not the way to make a lot of money. There's gonna be other perks. Some of these other perks, I didn't list them here, but you might want to list these in your notes. So think of the White House. That's an awesome perk to have. You live in the White House for however long you're the president. So you get free mortgage, you get free rent. So that's definitely a good thing. Camp David. You get Camp David, which is like a vacationing spot for the presidents. You get staff, free staff, usually somewhere in between, 400 and 500 people. Secret Service, they get to protect you. How amazing is that? You have all these cool dudes with sunglasses with little earpieces in their ears, making sure that nothing bad happens to you. That's a pretty sweet deal. You also get an expense account to spend money on the government's behalf. Air Force One, holy smokes, that is the coolest plane ever, and you get Air Force One. So these are some other perks that that presidents do have. So you might want to be aware of those. And after leaving office, you can make some cash. You can probably make more money after leaving office than when you were actually in office. So, money, 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 money. You can get money by speaking. Ronald Reagan was paid $2 million by a Japanese firm to make three speeches. That's $2 million. I don't know how that dwindles down per speech, but that's a lot of money. That's way more than he was making before as he was president. Clinton, he currently earns upwards to about $300,000 per speech, so that's a lot. So think of these colleges and stuff that want these former presidents to give their speeches and stuff like that, making major dough, especially with books too. Holy smokes! If you're a president, you can make some serious money writing a book. I think. Oh yeah, here it is. So let me reverse actually. So you can write your memoir. So for instance, Nixon, he's going to write a memoir. Clinton also received a lot of money in advance from a publisher. Obama has already signed a deal for after he becomes president. He will get, I forget what the amount is, but he's going to get money to sign that book. Let me see if I have George Bush's memoir somewhere around here. I don't know. It's around here somewhere, but you can also do that. So is this idea of temporary presidents true? Yes, it is. So again, the 25th Amendment, that is going to set the procedures just in case if there's vacancies in the office. So maybe the president is disabled and maybe somebody needs to be the president just for a short time. Well, this is going to be very important. The president may appoint a new VP, vice president, subject to the approval of the majority of Congress. So what I'm referring to with this is specifically with a disability. Let's say the president has to go into surgery or something like that. Then there are procedures set in place just in case something happens to the country to where there needs to be that leader set in place. So let's say, did I put it in? Let me see if I put it in here. I don't think I did. But let me see if it's on here. Yes, so I'll get to that actually in a second. So this point 2 right here. I'm pointing to the screen, but clearly you guys cannot see that. The president may appoint a new VP, subject to the approval of majority of Congress. So this is not dealing with the disability necessarily. This is going to be used twice. So this is just used if there is no vice president. So for instance, in the case of Richard Nixon, Richard Milhouse Nixon, which he was just born down the street in good old city of Yorba Linda, Nixon replaced Spiro Agnew with Gerald Ford. So Spiro Agnew did some shady stuff, not good. Dealing with money, I think it was tax evasion. So Agnew, he resigned. Well, the country needs a vice president, people. So Nixon is going to seek the approval of Congress to appoint Ford as vice president. And then not only did Spiro Agnew do some shady stuff, Nixon even did some shadier stuff. Holy smokes. So Nixon will resign. You guys know this. In August, what was the year? 73? I think it was 73. I could be wrong on that. But he's going to resign. And therefore, because Gerald Ford was the vice president, he's going to become president. But there's nobody to become vice president. So Ford will select his vice president, again, subject to the approval of the majority of Congress, so that he can have good old Nelson Rockefeller as his vice president. Fun fact about Ford. You guys probably already know this because you guys are intelligent Portionians. However, he is the only president that was never on a ticket. He was never vice president on a ticket. He was never elected as vice president, nor was he ever elected as president. So nobody, not one person, ever voted for him as the president. Nobody. He was voted for several times as a congressman, but never actually as president. So that's a pretty sweet deal. Never actually been elected. But of course, the president can also voluntarily relinquish his duties. In the case, for instance, it says in 1985, Reagan made his vice president, George H.W. Bush, Papa Bush, the acting president because he had a surgery. So again, this is just in case something bad happens. Reagan was put to sleep for a little bit, not permanently, but just for a little bit. So George Bush was the acting president. Now, what happens if something happens to the president and he becomes disabled? And he was actually never able to formally relinquish that duty. What's going to happen? What's going to happen? I think this actually was an episode of Scandal. I'm not sure, but I had to think about it. But what's going to happen is that the president might be disabled, and what's going to happen is the VP and is going to go to Congress along with a majority of the cabinet, and they are going to together deem the president unable to fulfill his duties. So they'll go to Congress and they will try to get the vice president to actually become president, just until the president can actually be what's the right word I'm looking for? Able to act as president faithfully. All right, so here's just a few presidents that were presidents that did not serve their complete term, so incomplete presidential terms. William Henry Harrison, look at this. He only served a month president. That's crazy. Zachary Taylor, he is going to die in office. He served a little more than a year. He's going to die in office. Some people say he died in office because he drank a spoiled glass of milk. Abraham Lincoln, you guys know what happened to him. He died April 15th. He will be shot April 14th on Good Friday. James Garfield, he was assassinated. It took him a little while to actually pass away, though, because the bullet was stuck in his body. And if surgeons did not look for the bullet, he probably would have been okay. But during that time, they wanted to get the bullet out. And because all that crazy procedural stuff, he ended up dying due to infection. William McKinley, he's going to be assassinated in Buffalo. Warren G. Harding, Warren G. Harding's shady. His death is actually kind of up in the air a little bit, but most of us can actually probably agree that he died due to heart failure, most likely a heart attack. However, some people say that his wife poisoned him because he was cheating on her. FDR, he's going to die April 12th. You guys know that story. You guys also know the story of JFK. He's going to die November 22nd in Dallas, Texas. And then Richard Milhouse Nixon. Oh, I was wrong with the date. It was 1974, not 73. He is going to not die, but he is going to resign office because he's a shady character. Do not look at Richard Nixon as a role model. Anyways, that's it today, guys. So just know those notes. Be prepared for just maybe a short quiz on some of that stuff. Feel free to ask me any questions, and I will see you guys later.